Hagar and Ishmael, Genesis 16 to 17. In the picture, a man is holding a First Nations flint arrowhead. Did you know that in the Bible, the Lord asked Joshua in Judges 5 to make a flint knife? Do you know why? Well, maybe this story will give you a clue. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. At this time she was 75 years old. She had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, Behold now, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go in to my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to Abram her husband as a wife. You see how Sarai is taking matters into her own hands. The Lord did not want Abram to have 2 wives, and the Lord had not told them to do this. They should have waited for the Lord's timing and for the Lord's instructions. And he went into Hagar, that's Abram, and she conceived. So that means that Hagar was now pregnant, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. So problems begin when you take matters into your own hands and don't wait for the Lord to say what he wants you to do. And in this case, Hagar is despising the woman who would claim and take her child for herself after it was born. And Sarai said to Abram, May the wrong done to me be on you. See how Sarai is blaming Abram. I gave my servant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me. Sarai is demanding that Abram do something about it. But Abram said to Sarai, Behold, your servant is in your power. Do to her as you please. Then Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? She said, I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai. Notice that she doesn't really have a plan, she just wants to get away. The angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress and submit to her. So that wasn't the Lord's will. The Lord's will was that as a servant she had to obey her mistress. The angel of the Lord also said to her, I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you are pregnant and shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. Ishmael means God hears. This shows that God is comforting Hagar and showing her that he knew what she was suffering under Sarai. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, the baby she would have. He would be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen. So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, You are a God of seeing. For she said, Truly here I have seen him who looks after me. Therefore the well was called Bir Lahairoi, which means well of the living one who sees me. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. God hears. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. When Abram was 99 years old, so this is 13 years later, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make my covenant between me and you, and may multiply you greatly. Then Abram fell on his face. And God said to him, Behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, which means exalted father, but your name shall be Abraham, which means father of many nations. For I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and your offspring after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. You see how the Lord is graciously repeating two of the three promises that he always was repeating to Abram. Well, his name is now Abraham. And God said to Abraham, As for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your offspring after you, throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your offspring after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male throughout your generations, whether born in your house or bought with your money from any foreigner who is not of your offspring. Both he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money shall surely be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh, an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Now, do you know why Abraham would need a flint knife? God said to Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but her name will be Sarah. Sarai means princess. Sarah means princess, but also means the mother of many nations. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of people shall come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said to himself, Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. God said, No, but Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I'm not sure what Isaac means. I'll have to check. Isaac means he laughs. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful and multiply him greatly. He shall father 12 princes. A couple or about 10 chapters later, it names all 12 sons that Ishmael would have. And I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. When he had finished talking with him, God went up from Abraham. Then Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house or bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very day, as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very day Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised, and all the men of his house, those born in the house and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him.